The BS Report is presented by Subway. Football season is over. Foot-long season is just beginning. For a limited time, get any piled high regular footlong for just $5. Any footlong, just $5. Hurry in, Subway. Eat fresh. Eat fresh. The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
All right, this is part 2 of the BS Report's American League preview. I called my buddy JackO on the Subway Fresh Take hotline. In part 1, we banged out the American League West and American League Central. In part 2, the American League East, as well as my beloved Red Sox and his beloved Yankees. Here we go. Let's go to the AL East.
All right.
Our favorite division.
Yes.
We'll start with Baltimore, who we can immediately write off. Although I'm very excited to see Matt Wieters.
Another rebuilding year.
Yeah, they also had Huff and Mora had kind of career after their prime years, so that those guys are going to stink this year.
Yeah.
People kind of like Baltimore as a potential sleeper, which I think is interesting. Not to win the division, but just to be good and
Just
maybe
to be
win
frisky.
85, 88 games. Yeah.
I don't know. Their pitching staff is an atrocity.
Well, let's go through it. Jeremy Guthrie's your ace.
Enough said.
Koji Uehara, who people like as a fantasy sleeper, is their number 2, and then the rest is
Adam
awful.
Eaton?
Yeah, it's bad. Adam Eaton, Mark Hendrickson, Alfredo Simon.
Not doing much for you there. I mean, that's
Closers-
rough. I mean, they're going to be facing the AL. You're facing the Yankees and Red Sox on a regular basis.
Their only relievers worth the damn are George Sherrill and Chris Ray if he can come back. Jim Johnson's half decent. Like, you'd almost maybe pick him up in your AL only league, but probably not.
Right.
You wouldn't want to spend more than $2 on him. And then
Nick Markakis is solid.
Nick Markakis.
How old
Yeah.
is Brian Roberts? My God, and Aubrey Huff. My God, how long have they been around? And Melvin
Brian
Mora.
Brian Roberts will be 32 this year.
Yeah.
Mora will be 45. Huff will be 48.
Greg Zahn, he's been around a long time too. He's just holding it, just keeping it warm until Wieters is ready.
Keeping it warm.
That's it.
In fact, that's what Wieters said when he left spring training. Keep that warm for me, Greg.
Keep
I'll be back in
warm
May.
for me.
I'll be back in May, possibly sooner if they sign me to an Evan Longoria type contract. I'm going to pencil them in I'm going to say that they aren't the sleeper teams people think they might be, and I'm going to pencil them in for 70 wins.
Ty Wigginton on their team. The Orioles are like a Mets farm team.
Yeah.
Like Mets prospects that went horribly wrong. They end up in Baltimore. Melvin Mora, Wigginton.
Their odds to win the division? Care to guess?
75-1.
40-1.
See, I guess that's a bargain then.
Toronto Blue Jays actually look like they could be worse.
Yeah, I know, which is unbelievable. What happened to Toronto?
Ugh.
What happened to Ricciardi? I thought he was like the poor man's Billy Bean. Not so much, huh?
JP?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's I'm going to say not so much.
No, not looking at this collection of players.
They have Alex Rios, basically their only big hitter. People really like Travis Snyder, their rookie DH.
So basically, Roy Halladay's on the market July 31st.
Possibly, yeah.
There's just no question about it, is there?
I think they, considering B.J. Ryan's throwing 87 right now, I think the move would be to trade Roy, wouldn't it? You're losing crap loads of money.
Yeah. I would trade him I would trade him now, actually. I guess you can get more in the All-Star break because teams, they probably wouldn't trade him in the American League, but somebody in the National League will give him a lot of prospects for him, I would think.
Hey, Toronto, how about Clay Buchholz, Lars Anderson, and some money? Any interest?
Well, Ricciardi isn't he like a Boston or a New England guy? He'd probably do that.
Yeah, if I was ever a GM, if I was an NBA GM and I was ever out of it, I would always trade my guys to the Celtics.
Yeah, that's what he would probably do too. Yeah, Halladay will be in the Red Sox. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, I'm going to say they're worse than Baltimore. I'm going to bump Baltimore up to like 77 wins. I'm going to put Toronto in the high 60s. That team's awful.
Vernon Wells not getting any younger.
No.
Scott Rowland, Rod Barajas.
I'm intrigued by Snyder. I'm a little intrigued by Adam Lind because he was pretty solid last year. Other than that,
Marco Scutero.
Let's talk about their odds are also 40-1. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays.
It's very interesting.
Little disease of more year after potential for them.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, you just don't know. Last year we had podcasts, and every week we were like, well, that's it for the Rays. They're all done. And next thing we knew, we woke up and they were winning the division. So, and going to the World Series. So who knows? I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. I would tend to agree that a little year after, like they kind of jumped the gun last year.
Yeah.
Probably come back to earth. And they're not
High expectations.
They cannot get the performance out of their bullpen that they got last year. They just can't.
I was going to say that's a chink of the armor.
They just can't.
Troy Percival penciled in for the 2009 closer job.
I mean, really?
Yeah. So he'll be hurt in a week.
Yeah, but they have guys that can fill in.
Well, so Dan Wheeler moves to closer. Here's the thing with them. I thought Grant Balfour made the biggest difference of anyone on that team last year with the innings and the outs that he was getting down the stretch. In the playoffs, he petered off a little, and that was one of the reasons they lost. I don't see him doing that again. I thought it was fluky. Yeah, I was suspicious of the fact that he could suddenly throw 100. I just don't see it again. And then, they still have the starters, but last year their bullpen was so good during the regular season. I'm not seeing it again.
And it's a cliche, but they're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. Last year teams were like, "Oh, the Rays, what?" And then they won 2 out of 3, and they're like, "The Rays, huh? Who knew?"
Yeah.
This year, everybody's like, "Ooh, the Rays are legit." They went to the World Series. They're no joke.
Ironically, I think their offense is going to be better because Longoria will have a full year. I really like Navarro.
Has the bat.
Yeah, I think Navarro is a fantasy. I argued about this with Barry yesterday. I just think he's going to have a leap.
Former Yankees farmhand, man.
Yeah. And then Carl Crawford, all signs point to a monster Carl Crawford comeback year.
Longoria is great.
They also they made this sneaky trade for Matt Joyce, who's on the Tigers, who was hitting a homer like every 10 at-bats, and he's their lefty-righty right fielder. He's going to be the lefty version. They got Pat the Bat at DH.
And they sent Price down to start the year, although he'll be back soon. But
yeah, he'll be back.
Interesting.
So if Price comes back, what does he come back as?
Well, he's got. Well, it depends, I guess. If they get anything out of the rotation, then I guess he goes to the back of the bullpen. But they don't really need back of the bullpen help.
Yeah,
you got to make him a starter. He's got to be better than somebody in their rotation. Jason Hamill.
I would make him the closer. I know that's crazy, but I just don't think you're going to win the World Series with Dan Wheeler or Jason Isringhausen as your closer. And we know Percival won't be there.
He's not going to be there.
So who's going to get your big outs? I thought it was interesting that in the Red Sox series last year, they went to David Price, was the guy who got the big outs.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they just do that again? And maybe there's reasons like with protecting his arm and all that kind of stuff. But Tampa Bay,
I don't know.
What do you think the odds are for them?
3-1.
Nice call. That's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
My Boston Red Sox.
The mighty nation.
We did a Red Sox Yankees podcast a couple weeks ago, so there's no reason to rehash all the stuff. I think the two things that have changed since we did that podcast, Julio Lugo got hurt, Jed Lowry now the shortstop. Mm-hmm. And Dice, I argued about this with Barry in the podcast. Dice looks like he's ready to make a kind of a step up. And I know his stats were, his win totals were good last year, but something's different about him, and I really think he's going to have a career year. In my opinion.
I mean, he's solid. I wish I could kill him, but I can't because I don't mean literally kill him, but I mean disparage his performance, but I can't because the guy. I mean, he pitches 5 innings and throws 140 pitches, but he had 18 freaking wins last year. He walks the earth, but he never gives up any hits when it counts. When the bases are loaded, nobody out, he somehow gets out of the jam. It's like he can turn it on and turn it off, his location or guys over swing or something, but he unfortunately comes up big in those situations. He never has a big inning because even though he walks everybody, he never gives a big hit.
It's a Red Sox team with a lot of ifs because you're looking at Brad Penny, J.D. Drew, Mike Lowell, Jason Varitek.
But the thing is, I don't even think Penny's really like a question though because behind him they have Smoltz and they have Clay Buchholz who had a really good spring. I mean, they're deep in pitching.
Well, that's two more questions though. I mean, Smoltz is 42 years old or whatever, and he's not even available until June. And then Buchholz, they counted on him last year and he murdered them. He just killed them. I'm not sold on him responding to the pressure. I know look at spring training, but So they have a lot of if guys. They're what I always call a Gammon's team. Gammons will write his thing in March about each team, and it'll be like,
if this and
if this and if that, and if he can hit the lottery, and if, once the ifs pass a certain point, you start thinking, all right, this is ridiculous. This isn't going to happen. For this Red Sox team, they have a lot of ifs. J.D. Drew's getting back shots.
Yeah.
Lowell still doesn't look 100% to me. Ortiz had a bad year last year. Rocco's got that weird disease.
Right. But he's just a bench guy, though.
Yeah, but I think, if J.D. Drew gets hurt, he's starting right fielder. The strength of the team is the bullpen. It's the best bullpen they've had in my lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. With Saito, Okajima, and Papelbon, no question.
And Masterson. Manny Del Carmen had a really good stat year last year quietly. Right. The other guy they have is this guy, Justin Tozawa, this Japanese guy that they signed.
Yeah.
Very sneaky signing and was lights out in spring training and looks like he's going to be up in July. Not just as bullpen to help, but as the fourth in the card games with Saito, Okajima, and Dice. Now they have a fourth.
That's good to know.
They can play whatever Japanese pinochle game is out there.
I was going to say, I don't know what a Japanese card game is, but I'm sure they play it, right?
And also the team saves money on translators because you only need one translator for all four guys.
Exactly.
Just keep them together.
It's a good call, absolutely.
They could take English classes together. I think it's good.
That's right.
What do you think the odds are for the Red Sox?
2-1.
7-5.
All right.
Win total prediction from you.
For the Sox?
Yeah.
They're going to win, unfortunately, probably about 94, 95 games.
Are you factoring in the Miguel Cabrera trade in that prediction?
Well, that's going to happen. I was hopeful this week because I read that John Henry, their owner, is marrying some 30-year-old woman.
Yes.
And I was hoping that Mrs. Henry was going to take him to the cleaners in divorce court, and that he'd have to slash payroll, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's already been divorced for a little while, so that was disappointing. So, yeah, the Miguel Cabrera trade probably is going to happen.
How about John Henry, a billionaire, marries young, gets divorced, he's out in the town a little bit. I was at Alibi in Boston, the bar in the Liberty Hotel last year.
Really?
2 years ago, and he was with Tom Werner, and they were like talking to babes.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, hey, you know the Red Sox? You're looking at two of the owners.
Right.
It was like obviously those conversations with girls who were honestly my cousin's Kristen's age. They were like early 20s.
It's good to be a billionaire that owns the Red Sox in Boston. I don't think you're hurting for the ladies, that's for sure.
Well,
a lot of pickup line potential there.
I was watching them from afar and applauding them. I actually wanted to go over and high-five them. And then to hear the news Henry immediately got roped into another marriage was bitterly disappointing.
Yeah. I'm sure she likes him for his personality and his debonair good looks. Supposedly
he is a really funny guy to be around. Like he's like one of those sneaky funny guys.
And that $1 billion ain't hurting either. I'd be laughing too.
And neither is that Red Sox ownership.
That's right. Hey, you like Jacoby Ellsbury? Well, I pay him.
I could not cut his check next week, and I'd be the one he called. Wondering where his money was.
How'd you ladies like to have a foul pole named after you?
Yeah. How'd you guys like to see Pesky's pole? Yeah, I think if you live in Boston and you're a single guy who's rich, I think owning the Red Sox would trump anything.
Yeah.
It would even trump playing for the Red Sox, in my opinion.
Like if Gisele Bündchen hadn't already been with Tom Brady, she might have given John Henry a second look.
Possibly.
Potentially.
Well, the thing is, though, with her, she's independently wealthy on her own.
The money, I guess, isn't really a lure for her. That's a good point.
I'm going to say Kate Bosworth's doing a movie in Boston, and she's at the bar and meets this guy. Oh, he owns the Red Sox, telling her friends about it.
Right.
Yeah, he's a little older. He's 57, but... Yeah.
I can't believe he was only 59. That was the most shocking part of the story. I thought he looked older.
If you own the Red Sox, do you get married at Fenway Park?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It would be like in the movie The Natural. Didn't they have like a wedding on the field or something? Yeah, I would definitely get married at Fenway Park.
You have the reception at the baseball tavern. The cask and flagon.
Yeah, the cask and flagon. That's much classier. Yeah.
It would be funny if this girl turned out to be like this total opportunist or whatever, and once the marriage went through, she's like, I'm the first lady of the Red Sox now, and like turned into like the owner from Major League.
Yeah, or Yoko Ono, or the owner from Major League. Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
What can I do to get more involved? Yeah, I'm worried. Let's keep an eye out on this new Mrs. Henry Brad.
She's down in Theo's office, like consulting on trades.
Yeah. No moves are made without my knowledge. Weren't you a waitress?
I watched all your games, though.
The New York Yankees.
The mighty juggernaut.
The most famous franchise in baseball.
The most famous franchise in sports.
We went over their lineup a few weeks ago. I guess the one difference, I'm not sure if this is a drop off. You let me know. Alex Rodriguez out, Cody Ransom in at third base.
It's a coin flip. Interchangeable parts. Won't notice a difference.
That makes them worse, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. The lineup's not quite as strong. And Jeter's the leadoff hitter now.
Wow.
Jeter's the leadoff hitter, which is interesting.
Barry and I talked about this on the podcast. My friend Mike Mendelson thinks that Derek Jeter is now Placido Polanco plus 4 more homers.
That's hurtful. Come on.
I'm just saying what he said.
Come on. That hurts. Don't say that about the
Hey, I just noticed. I'm looking at your depth chart, and you have Angel Barroa as a backup.
Yes, we do.
He was the guy who Manny really clicked with on the Dodgers, and they were like all buddy-buddy.
They probably signed him in anticipation of having Manny on the team, and then that didn't really work out, and now they still have him.
Yeah, they were like, Angel, can we get out of that deal? No, you signed it.
I signed it, I say.
Give me 3 Yankee predictions from a guy who follows this team very closely and reads everything there is to read.
I think that CC Sabathia is going to own New York City. I think he's going to be the biggest thing to hit New York sports since, I don't know, who was the last big guy, like Patrick Ewing? Let's just take like New York, but that's really a bad analogy because Patrick Ewing never won anything. I think he's going to be like the biggest celebrity in New York. I think people are just going to love him. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be huge.
Why do you think that?
I was reading the article in Sports Illustrated about him, and he just seems like this affable guy. All the teammates have taken to him, and he's kind of like, almost got like that sort of blue collar body that he's like this big overweight guy. Yeah. He's like a lefty with his hat kind of crooked, and I think he's going to have a huge year for them. People always get behind the Yankees when they have a big year. Like, the pitchers like Guidry was a huge deal in the 70s. I just think that New York is really going to take the CC, and vice versa.
Who was the last signature black player that they've had?
Well, Winfield? Reggie Jackson certainly in the
obviously.
Winfield.
Yeah. How about this? When was the first likable black superstar they've had? Because you just named 2 people that I never liked.
I'm trying to think.
They had nobody during
Cecil Fielder in '96, but he wasn't really like a huge player.
I guess Darryl.
Doc Gooding, Darryl Strawberry.
Yeah, Darryl was beloved by the Yank fans.
The Straw, people like the Straw, but that was like a little pseudo because he was a Met. I mean, I rooted for the Straw as a Yankee too, but I mean, he was really more of a Met. That's what he's always associated with is the Mets.
So this CC thing, really the first cool, fan-friendly, lovable African-American superstar athlete the Yankees have ever had.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, unfortunately nowadays in baseball there aren't that many African American players. So I'm trying to think of like great African American Yankees. I mean, Elston Howard, but that was way back when, and there was a lot of other guys that were probably more popular than he was. Obviously Reggie Jackson, but that was a love-hate thing.
Well, Fenway Country Day is throwing a goose egg this year.
Really?
Black athletes. Yeah, the Red Sox have no black players.
There you go. See that?
I agree with you. I think I like everything I've read. I really like the stories about CC on Milwaukee last year. I went from making fun of this signing to feeling like maybe this might have been a good signing because you read about the effect that he's had on the team.
That's the thing, and I know it's cliched, and teams obviously like the 1970s Yankees, they all hated each other, but they won games.
Right.
And you don't have to love everybody in the clubhouse. But lately in sports, it seems like there is that thing with like team chemistry and guys getting along with each other, and it makes it work, a happier workplace. And it's more conducive to winning. And you read about, like, between CC and Nick Swisher, and it's like the Yankees used to be really way too corporate and robotic in the clubhouse. And not that anybody really disliked each other, except I think they did and still probably dislike A-Rod. But, it wasn't really like a 25 guys, 25 cabs thing, but they weren't really, like, warm and fuzzy and, like, team camaraderie. So that's like a good thing. Like CC started a thing when one pitcher warms up, all the four starters go and watch him warm up and like cheer him on. It's really become like a thing now. So
yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to who has the most talent.
And he demanded that Jabba be put like next to him in the clubhouse so he can just like talk to Jabba and school Jabba. That's helpful.
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to talent. But this stuff helps you this stuff I think helps you get in the playoffs. There's no question. During a 162-game season, the teams that get along seem to get more breaks and weird stuff happens, and they'll get the weird bounce in the ninth inning. It's hard to explain.
Like the Celtics. I mean, obviously they went out and got the big three, but you always see the things with Garnett, like talking to Big Baby on the bench and taking him under his wing, and Big Baby wants to like impress Garnett, and you read all that stuff, and it could be like a similar thing with Jabba, where these starters, like one starter builds on another,
Yeah, it's possible. I'm not ruling it out. I do think baseball is an individual sport ultimately.
Yeah,
basketball you can affect your teammates. Yeah,
that's true. It's
ultimately Jabba's out there by himself, and he doesn't have CC Sabathia making him better.
True, right. He can't do anything to help ostensibly on the mound, but in preparation, going about it and everything. I'm trying to talk myself into this. Come on, throw me a bone here.
Listen, I think you've read all the stuff you would want to read about your team in spring training. Like they get along, the atmosphere is different. I think getting rid of A-Rod for a couple months.
Yeah.
Not getting him out of the clubhouse as much as getting that whole steroid soap opera, that whole thing.
Right.
I think that just would have overshadowed the whole spring training, and instead you got to hear about how everyone gets along.
I also think Teixeira is going to be a big deal. I mean, he's going to be like, the direct line of Mattingly to Tino Martinez to now Teixeira. I think he's going to be huge. He'll be popular, just quiet, goes about his business. The one thing that makes me nervous about him is that he's supposedly a slow starter. That makes me a little nervous if he's a little slow getting out of the gate in April and the boo birds come out and people are like, we're paying $2,500 for these seats and part of it's your $180 million salary. You better start hitting,
A-hole.
Right.
Yeah, also, there's a sentiment, my buddy Gus was telling me, that a lot of people around baseball seem to feel like he's going to press.
Yeah,
and that he's one of those guys who this could potentially be really dangerous for him.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for good things for him, but I'm a little reticent about that. I'm a little bit nervous. I think he's going to be all right, but I'm a little nervous about how it's going to start.
The two things I like as a Red Sox fan, looking at your team, other than the fact that Cody Ransom is your starting third baseman. Defensively, it's kind of brutal.
Yeah, it's not good. I'll give you that. That's true.
Jeter at short, Johnny D at left.
And what makes me nervous with that is obviously
Posada at catcher.
You could have pitchers that have to make a lot of extra pitches, which is not good when AJ Burnett's one of the pitchers involved.
True.
That makes me nervous. The defense is not strong, but they haven't had a good defense in forever, really. So, and this is the best rotation they've had. Really, I think it's a better starting five than when they won the World Series. Had the World Series run in the '90s.
I agree. The World Series rotations were actually a little bit overrated.
Yeah, they definitely were.
Look at them statistically, and they had some shaky components to them.
Right. So this starting five on paper is just, it's arguably the best in baseball. The Red Sox top three is arguably better, but I think the Yankees beat them with the 4-5 they have.
Your bullpen's terrible.
Starter.
But your bullpen's terrible.
The bullpen is terrible, yeah. So the Red Sox as a staff all around are better because of the bullpen. But and the other thing is if the Yankees, I think they're going to be in the hunt because of their pitching and because of their offense. So obviously they're not afraid to go and pull the trigger at the trade deadline to go get another piece of the puzzle.
Worst case scenario, A-Rod takes like an extra month and a half to come back. AJ Burnett stinks. Teixeira presses too much. Andy Pettitte is washed up. Jabba gets hurt in a month.
Hang on a second, I just have to be revived.
Just saying, all those things are in play.
And the other thing that makes me nervous is that I'm like super confident this year, and you know me, I'm always like pessimistic.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh, this team, like, if they go down 1-0 in the first game, I'm like, this team's awful, they're terrible, Cashman should be fired. And I'm like surprisingly like hopeful, and I know everybody's hopeful in the spring, and everybody has a chance to win the World Series, but I really love their rotation. And I'm excited for the new season. So that could be a bad sign, too. Things could go horribly, horribly wrong from there.
Does the new stadium help or hurt?
Good question. I don't know. That's a good question. might hurt a little bit. You know, you got a new thing you're getting used to. Might be you're trying to press a little bit because you're like, we have this brand new palace and we're trying to put people in there at exorbitant, you know, through the roof prices. That could be a problem. Don't have the old history and the drama of the old Yankee Stadium.
I think it helps.
You think it helps?
I do. I think there's something to having new digs. I think there's a freshness to the season that helps things.
All right.
The fans are more into it because they're going there for the first time. They're more excited. Their experience is better. They're going to be more into the game. They're closer. It's more intimate. For the team itself, you know, the fans are right on top of them. Smaller ballpark, cooler.
Conversely, though, it's probably a little bit more antiseptic and corporate. You might have priced out sort of the blue collar.
Interesting, John. I didn't think of that.
You know.
Oh, I like that angle.
It might be very corporate and just you're there to see and be seen, but you're not really there to like cheer on the Yankees necessarily or give them any kind of home field advantage.
Let's hope you're right.
Like, are people still going to know to stand up with 2 strikes? You know, when the Yankees pitcher has 2 strikes on the batter, you know, the old traditions, or is it going to be like some guy from Merrill Lynch, or I'm trying to think of a company that's not in trouble now. It's not a good idea to name companies, but from some company, and they're just there to, you know, drink white wine and eat a big steak and, you know, say I was at Yankee Stadium. You know, that worries me a little bit.
Johnny, you've completely changed my opinion in 20 seconds. Because now I'm thinking about how different the Fenway games are now, and it's like all people that aren't people like my friend J-Buck.
Well, how about like the Fleet Center versus Boston Garden, you know? Or whatever.
Yeah,
I guess it's the Boston Garden now, but...
Yeah, that's every NBA arena, though.
Yeah, so...
But, yeah. Well, I hope you're right, Johnny. I think when you're knee deep into a lobster and you have a lobster bib on and you're watching a baseball game, something's wrong. You're drinking a mimosa.
Right.
Hey, the Yanks just came back. Oh, that's great. Where's the mimosa? It's gonna be a little different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's problematic. So
I love the symmetry of this ballpark that used all this local money, you know, and it's just so excessive, is now opening in this specific year during the worst economy in forever. It's really kind of interesting.
Well, the most
funny.
egregious one, though, is the Mets, which is Citi Field, because it's sponsored by Citigroup, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
As a taxpayer, can I just go to Citi Field and say, I'd like 2 tickets for today's game, please? Say I'm one of the owners because I'm a U.S. taxpayer.
It'd be an interesting strategy. By the way, as we're doing the podcast, Gary Sheffield signed with the New York Mets.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He fits in with what they're trying to do, which is to build the 1995 All-Star team.
Oh, my God, the Mets, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Will they have any other African-American players so he won't claim that it's racist if he's not playing?
I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, I should probably look that up. That's a great question.
He didn't sign with the Dodgers and Joe Torre, huh? It seemed like they got along pretty well.
I actually like Chef as a sleeper this year, and then he got waived, which made me wonder about the rest of my sleeper list.
They were talking about him going to the Phillies, and that would have been interesting, him in that small ballpark.
To answer your question on black players, I think I'm Marlon Anderson on the bench.
There you go. All right.
God, it's so sad. I mean, seriously, the Red Sox, 0. The Mets now have 2, and the Yankees have CC and who else? Anybody? Just that CC, right?
Well, Jeter is half African American.
Oh yeah, he's biracial. But between
anybody else?
But between the 3 highest spending teams, 3 black players and 1 biracial player, and that's the entire list.
That's terrible.
It's just something is failing with. I don't understand how that happens.
Some inner city little leagues going or something, you know, rebuild baseball in the inner city.
I guess Hardball didn't really get the ball rolling with Keanu Reeves, like everybody thought.
Sadly, no.
It comes down to the fact that it's just much easier to gravitate toward a sport like basketball when all you need is a basketball and a basket. In baseball, you need equipment, you need a giant field.
Right. Bats and gloves are expensive, and yeah.
If nobody cares.
Major League Baseball, didn't they do something to try and reinvigorate that? They should really get on the stick with that some more.
They can't even figure out how to distance themselves from the steroid problem.
That's a good point.
But
Felix is trying to figure out the World Baseball Classic and get that off the ground, so, never mind.
But if you're let's say you're an outstanding 10-year-old and you're African American.
Mm-hmm.
Would you play baseball?
Well, I mean, you're asking me as a almost 39-year-old guy, and I
well,
love
that's
baseball,
why I thought your
so.
perspective would be so on the mark.
I know it's
so
really
much in common with them.
I mean, I don't know. Basketball is like hugely popular in urban areas. It's all about basketball, so maybe that's what's taken over culturally, and that's what young African Americans like to play more so than baseball. And now that there's a dearth of African Americans in baseball, there's probably nobody that they can identify with either.
Well, I was going to say that's one problem. And in baseball, you have to struggle more to get to where you need to go. You don't get the money right away.
Yeah.
If you're in basketball, you could potentially be in the NBA by the time you're 19. You could look at somebody like LeBron James, who is making, $25 million a year between endorsements and his salary and everything. He's not even 25 yet.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like your odds, even though your odds aren't better, your odds actually, if you're 10 years old, you're thinking, it'd be easier for me to go this way. And actually, your odds are much better to go to baseball.
I'll get drafted out of high school. I don't have to ride on buses in the minor leagues and live in Iowa for a couple of years,
Right.
Yeah.
But I would think you'd have a better chance of succeed. The odds are more for you in baseball.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, there's more. More players per team. There's just more opportunities, just numerically. So you would think, and the LeBrons obviously are few and far between.
Right.
I mean, he's a once in a lifetime or once in a generation player. So.
Yeah, but you add up LeBron, Wade, Kobe. Like it starts adding up after a while.
Yeah, but there's also the Kwame Brown. What's his name? Kwame Brown, the guy that Jordan drafted from high school, who was a colossal bust.
Yeah, but he made $40 million.
Well, that's true. I guess, yeah. I wish I could be a bust like that, too, I guess.
Yeah.
Make $40 million. That's not bad. True.
One thing's for sure. You're not going to gravitate toward hockey.
No, that's true.
And football, I think, is one of those sports that will always, because people play it in high school. It's a popular thing to, if you're a great athlete.
Equipment and everything, though. Yeah, as an athlete, you're going to the game will find you.
Hey, if you're a great athlete, you can step on a football field. You're going to be good right away.
Right.
Unless you're a quarterback, maybe you need a little time. But it's a natural athlete sport. Baseball or basketball, I guess you could say baseball is kind of a natural athlete sport to some degree.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanics, though, in throwing a ball and learning the swing and everything. So, getting your swing right.
Well, I'm excited to see what CC does with New York and the Yankees.
Yeah, I think he's going to be big. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Yanks. I feel good.
I'm excited for you to have a black person in your life.
I'm happy. I might go buy CC's jersey, actually. I'm going to hold it down for CC.
What jersey number is he wearing?
He's number 52.
All right.
And Teixeira's number 25, the Giambino's old number.
He's number 52, and he's a 4XL. I hope he gets fatter and fatter and fatter as the year goes on. Who are you opening the season against?
I don't know. This is awful. This is 2 years in a row you've asked me this, and I've whiffed on this question.
Baltimore.
Thank you.
Joe Meade!
Thank you, Joe Meade. They open in Baltimore. I think the Red Sox, of course, because the commissioners in their back pocket, they actually start at home.
Don't do it, Johnny.
I think they play at home for about the first 2 months of the year, and then they go on the road.
Oh, Johnny.
Whereas the Yankees start the season on Monday, and they don't have a home game until the 16th, I think, is their first home game. They play the Cubs, actually, tonight in an exhibition in the new Yankee Stadium. And how do they not have the Red Sox for their home opener? How does baseball not schedule that?
I got to say, I'm legitimately excited for Monday, 2:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Josh Beckett at home at Fenway Park representing the Fenway Country Day Red Sox against James Shields.
Nice.
It's a nice game.
That's a good one.
It's a nice 11 o'clock game.
It's a good one.
Might have to bust out a running diary potentially for that.
There you go.
Quick TV question. Are you watching High School Reunion?
No, I watched like one episode of it. I was with a bunch of friends, and we were flipping the channels, and we, of course, were immediately locked into it, and it's the only one I've seen. I've only seen one of them, which disappointed me when I read your mailbag yesterday, and you talked about the revelations on the show. I might have to start watching it or seeing if it's on demand or something.
I only know one other person who's watching it, other than me and the sports gal. Connor's old assistant, now ESPN employee, Deirdre Fenton, emailed me when that mailbag came out and was just over the moon that somebody else was watching it.
Really?
It was like we're in this like little tiny club.
It's very exclusive.
Only us realize how fantastic the show is.
The first one that I saw, I don't know if it was I think it might have been the very first episode, was really good. It was intriguing. It's an intriguing idea, and especially when you have a couple that were high school sweethearts and got married and were divorced, and now they're like roommates. That was intriguing, to say the least.
The one downer of somehow this turned out to be the ugliest high school in the history of any state ever.
The one who was attractive was there was a woman who was at the high school for like 5 minutes and was made fun of unmercifully because she had a big chest or something.
Yeah.
And then she came back.
Problem.
She came back. Yeah, right. She came back to confront her taunters.
Yeah.
She looked all right.
She was okay.
Yeah, she was okay.
Yeah, she was all right. I highly recommend. I think they're doing a catch-up weekend or something on TV Land this weekend.
Oh, all right, perfect. I'll see if I can get caught up.
Oh, you'll be caught up and you'll be fired up.
The high school's from Texas, right? The reunion, it wasn't at the high school?
No, Arizona.
Texas? Oh, Arizona. Why did I think Texas? I don't know.
I got to say, though, my wife and I probably spent 3 hours analyzing this, even went online, went on some message boards and blogs, and we had decided that she is not a prostitute, the one who was accused.
Someone's accused of being a prostitute?
Yeah, I mentioned that in the mailbag.
Yeah, you did, I know, but I thought that was a joke.
Oh, no, not a joke. God. Not a joke. A big confrontation scene, and her friend, who she was having a falling out with, screamed at her that, what do you know? You're a hooker. You suck blank for a living and all this stuff. And it was, let me tell you something, there were some jaws dropping.
I went to my real high school reunion this year. We organized it, which was a 20-year, but it was really 21 years after we graduated because we didn't organize it that well. But sadly, there was no revelations like that.
Well, then we were like, well, maybe she was an escort, not actually like performing sexual, like that's in play.
Right.
But now, after we decided that she wasn't a prostitute, somebody sent me a link to, they have like unedited scenes on the website on TV Land, and the guys were in the hot tub analyzing it. Because Lord knows it needed to be analyzed in the hot tub.
That's right.
And they said that she had battled a lot of personal problems, but she'd been clean for 7 months.
Oh boy.
And they were assuming clean from a drug standpoint, but maybe just clean sexually from a I'm not getting paid to have sex with random guys standpoint.
Well, it could be that she had a drug habit and had to support that drug habit by any means necessary.
The best part, and the part that you'll love the most, is they had these hall passes.
Yeah.
So there's this one guy that she had a couple hall pass dates with. And they're like, they really had some chemistry, they made out, and then this hooker bombshell thing happens, and then she goes to him later and is saying, hey, I just wanted to make sure we weren't affected by any of this. And he's like, no, I mean, I do want to take a step, basically like just gave her the Heisman. I do want to take a step back. Are we okay? Yeah, I guess, but he could not have been more bummed out.
He should have known something was awry when she called in his credit card number on the first date.
When he made out, and then she asked him for money.
She's like, I just want to get an authorization on this. It's a MasterCard. So.
You would love the show. The other great thing that happened, which actually was kind of appalling, but the one guy had too much to drink one night and offended more people in like a 1 hour span than I think I've ever seen on a reality TV show. And even referred to one of the African-American housemates, jokingly called her buckwheat. Which was one of the all-time line crossers, I think, ever on a TV show. And led to a whole House vote whether he should stay in. He made his case. And then this guy who was like, they give everybody a tag. His tag was the outcast. The outcast just couldn't accept that this guy could be let back in the house after the buckwheat thing. And with reason. I think that's a deal breaker. You're out. So he had this I can't stay in the house if he's, and just breaks down and gives a stammering, crying speech and leaves the house over it.
Wow.
That was episode 2.
This is amazing.
Yeah, you'd love the show.
But after you have this intense experience where they put them all in Hawaii or whatever, and this is like a high school reunion, like what happens when they have a real high school reunion in 5 years and it's like the 25th reunion? Like, can any of these people go and show their face?
That's a VW hall.
Yeah, exactly. Like in Arizona, and they're like, hey, what have you been up to? You know, you might have seen me on the show 5 years ago. I was outed as a prostitute. Other than that, not much else is new.
Yeah, the call girl thing came out. That was awkward.
Yeah, that kind of threw me for a loop for a couple of years. And,
I had to rehab my life, and yeah.
That was problematic in the workforce. You know, that hurt. My boss was surprised by the revelation. Yeah.
What bothers me is that this is really one of the great ideas ever for a reality show. And I just feel like this should be on all the time. They should be doing high schools in every region of the country, and this should be showing every night of the week. This would be my plan if I'm TV land.
If they branch off into college, you and I can sign up.
Why not a college reunion? Why not a 20-year college reunion?
See, that's even better because you probably have more intense experiences in college than you do in high school.
Oh, yes.
If you catch my drift.
Thank God there weren't cameras at our 10-year reunion, I can tell you that much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not happy with anything that happened. Not happy, not pleased or proud of my performance. Anyway, on that note, we're going to go. We're going to have to split this into 2 parts, Johnny. You got your first 2-part podcast.
Very good.
Good luck with the season, and
Thank you.
We will be talking to you all year during the season.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Let's hope I'm happy.
Okay. Take care of yourself.
All right, you too. Later.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Podcenter at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.
And that concludes another episode of the BS Report. And here's 55 more words that Bill Simmons intended to mention, but unfortunately ran out of time. Now you can get any regular piled high Subway footlong for just $5. The keyword is any. The sweet onion chicken teriyaki, savory chicken and bacon ranch, the meaty taste bud pleasing Italian BMT. All the regular famous Subway footlongs, just $5. Subway, eat fresh. See store for details.